All right, so guys, I'd like to talk about pricing. Let's talk about you know, everything that has to do with pricing, fear of asking for more money, right? Basically, fear of not even knowing what you're worth, right? And just asking for so little in terms of like what the company can actually produce for clients. Now, this is maybe for a service provider, for an agency. I run an agency. It's called Acquirely.io. And what we do is essentially we build cold email systems and infrastructures for other B2B companies. And our goal is to add revenue, right? We actually get people revenue from appointments booked, and we book people hundreds of calls every single month, right, onto their sales calendars. Now, this is a big one, and yeah, this took me so long to figure out pricing, and really it's a mindset. And this is what I want to cover in this video, right? Is like, what is the right mindset when it comes to really pricing and knowing your own value? So, firstly, for a long time, I thought I had to price cheaply because of like competition, and also because like, what if you teach someone on the team how to do the thing? In our case, cold email, you buy domains and inboxes, you set them up, and like I can teach any person to do this, right? It's not complicated. So then it's like, okay, well, what about the fear of like if I teach that person, they leave, and then my competitor or one of our clients could like buy them from us, or like like hire that person and just take all our infrastructures and frameworks and everything and just like steal it all, right? But here's the thing, right? That is such limited mindset, because all of these things can be solved, and essentially it's an ecosystem. You want each part of your ecosystem to be complementing another. So every single thing can have an underlying utility that can prevent a problem, right? It's essentially an ecosystem of SOPs. And so in this case, like to prevent that problem specifically, that's why companies have an R&D department, because the only company that's at risk of having information stolen and like being easily replicatable is a company that doesn't evolve or improve. Essentially a lazy company. Now, I want to give a caveat to that, which is most companies are lazy. They don't do R&D, right? And so, yeah, they're kind of useless compared to the people that are doing R&D and the companies that are doing R&D. So in this case, R&D will be the solution to that. Why? Because like in this case, I would just make the company the asset, right? The company is the ecosystem that has different departments, and that's why a company has different departments. Number one, is to easily delegate and automate the company. But number two is to protect intellectual property, because no one individual can possibly replicate the whole company. They could. It's just going to take whatever it took the company to actually create that. It's going to take all of that effort all over again. So I'm not saying someone in the company can go and get all the capital and go and get all the thousands of hours it took from every single one of the team members. I'm not saying they can't steal every team member and replicate the company, but it's going to take so much to do that that it's virtually like not going to happen. Basically, it's impossible, right? I mean, it's possible, but it's not going to happen. The likelihood of that happening is very low. Now, let's talk about pricing, because this ties into pricing, dude. Like, the reason why I'm making this video is I just went through a coaching session, right? And I was explaining to someone this process. And essentially, like, it's all got to do with mindset. And the reason why people get stuck, and this influences everything, like your pricing will dictate whether your business survives or fails. It will dictate whether you're depressed or thriving in your personal life. It means a massive deal, okay? So you need to know your worth. And this comes from a sort of framework of value, right? Like, how do you provide value to the marketplace? And ultimately, if you're looking at the North Star of revenue as a B2B service provider, it's like, well, you are pretty much worth 10% of the revenue you produce for someone else, right? I want you to visualize it like you're a closer, like closers, right? Like sales reps, they earn 10% commission, like just straight commission. Majority of the time, majority of B2B online service industries pay 10% on revenue. And so I want you to see the same as that, right? Like the closer is producing a service, right? They are collecting cash for the business. And so they are worth 10% of that, which is both very generous for the individual doing it because it's leveraged, right? They can just bang through calls all day long. They're leveraged. But at the same time, it is very much worth it for the business, right? It's a big enough problem that is being solved for the business. And the business is still keeping 90% of that. And so it's a win-win situation. That is, to me, the perfect offer. That's the perfect offer, right? Now, what could make it more perfect is obviously if for the business, if the closer was earning a little bit less, right? Let's say if they only had to pay 6% or 7%. Sure, it's a better deal, but that's not the point. The point is for both the company, it's the perfect balance between the company and the service provider, in this case, the sales rep. They are a service provider, right? Because a company is essentially just a decentralized version of that thing, right? So like, technically speaking, a sales agency would just be able to do the same thing, but just more efficiently. Basically, like a sales agency would be a conglomerate of sales reps, right? And so it's the same thing. Like a sales rep is still a service provider. There's just nuances to it. But anyways, that's for a different type of topic. Let's touch base now again. Let's keep the topic on pricing. And this is very, very valuable. I'm going to get to the real banger in a second. But look, guys, I've dealt with many different pricing models, many different pricing points, right? And I've just, it's so interesting. I found the most difficult time when I'm charging the lowest price possible. Like, I've charged no margin at all at one point. Like, we did not charge profit. I actually ran an experiment, right? We were charging $30,000 setup fee for our system release. We built the entire outbound infrastructure into our clients' companies, right? So they can own it in-house. They can add millions to their company valuation. We'll charge minimum $30,000 for that. I ran a test, right, where we would get on sales calls and I would only pitch the lowest possible offer where we would not even make money, okay? I offered $1,000 down, okay, plus like $99 per call. It was like an agency package, right? Like $99 per call attended. So if they don't show up, you don't pay, right? It was like a stupidly, ridiculously low offer, okay? Now, obviously, with our system release, we don't charge $99 per call. Obviously, the client owns the system in-house, and so, generally we do a rev share for that. But in this agency package, I just thought, hey, let's try it out. I will charge the lowest possible setup fee of $1,000, right, for a system that can send 50,000 emails per month, okay, literally. And the funny thing is, and we just turned off our targeting on our, so we targeted a different demographic of like just small businesses. So not companies that have like 20 to 100 employees, just companies that have like 1 to 10 employees. The funny thing is we didn't close any deals. I attended 15 calls and I did not close a single deal. And it's because those people have the wrong mindset. They are fighting for price. I want to be clear. And if you ever apply to be a client at Acquirely, please know this, okay? Not in all scenarios is it not in every single scenario is it the right thing to fight for price. And in some scenarios, it is the right thing to fight for price. It is going to be your signal and, signal over noise, right? Like it will be worthwhile getting the lower price now. I'm trying to think of a good example. I can't really think of any except like if you're in the textile business, let's say you're reselling clothing, it's probably worth it if you can find the clothes for a better price, right? Or in our case, we have good special rates on inboxes. So if you go to Google, right? This is our advantage of a service provider. If you go to Google and you go and try and build your own email system, you're going to pay $7.20 per month per inbox. But on our side, we have suppliers, okay, where we're able to get it for significantly lower, less than half that price, right? So in that case, is it worth my time to, in this specific domain of, inbox pricing, is it worth it for me to go and find a provider that can offer it for me for 10% cheaper? Yes, right? Because we're paying tens of thousands of dollars per month for inboxes on our agency side, right? And so it would make sense to save cost on there because it would increase our margin as a company. Because why? There's not a massive difference in the outcome, right? There's not a massive difference on the quality of the appointments that we're booking if we're paying $7.20 or $5 per inbox. So that is worth it. That is signal for me to go and get a cheaper price on the inboxes. Now, I want to be clear. If I'm looking for an agency to hire, depending on what the goal is, will massively dictate if I'm looking for a cheaper price or if I'm not even bothered about price at all. Now, in this case, if you're looking for a company like what we do, the stupidest decision you can make is try to find a cheaper price. I want to be clear. In the cold email space, now if you're a part of the cold email space, if you've seen what people do, you might already know what I'm talking about. But in the cold email space, there is a wide range, okay, of service providers. I've seen all the way at the bottom of the barrel, some person in Bangladesh or India, okay, is going to offer something at such a ridiculously low price, probably like $500, and they'll set up, they'll do whatever I want for them, right? And they'll build, and then I've seen like some agencies, they're going to charge you like $1,000, bottom of the barrel crap, and they'll build and release a system into your business for $1,000. Do you really think that's going to be something that's going to produce results? Let's just be clear, and I'm giving a nuanced example right now about the cold email industry because it's my industry. I know it very, very well, okay? And so I can give you a convictionate answer around this, but apply it to your own industry. This is really the nuance about pricing, guys. It's like, yes, I want to be clear, and I will say this on a call to any prospect, okay? Majority of prospects are looking for a cheaper price. Naturally, it's okay. But I want to be clear, in some instances, it is not the right thing to do, okay? It is a mistake to look for a cheaper option depending on what the thing is. So in this case, again, that is that example. Now, let's give the reason why. I'm going to give a very clear reason why, okay? There's a few of them in this industry specifically. So basically, yes, there is someone out there who's going to build the system for you, a cold email system. They'll tell you they can build you a cold email system for $3,000. There's another agency or freelancer that can do it for $2,000. There's another one that can do it for $1,000. There's probably some that are doing it for $500. Okay, maybe there are some that are even doing it for fucking free. Okay, so why am I charging $30,000? And why should you pay me $30,000? Right, my agency at Acquirely. Why should you pay us $30,000 when you can get someone to do it for $3,000? Well, if you're looking, see, the price of the system is noise because the goal is not to get a cheap system. The goal of setting up a cold email infrastructure is two real main factors. Number one is to increase predictable revenue within the business, right? Is to generate qualified appointments onto the sales calendar of your sales team and to add $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 per month to your predictable revenue. So we're looking to add anywhere between $1 to $3 million a year in revenue from those sales calls. Okay? That is the goal. Firstly. Secondly, a cold email infrastructure either creates your company to be acquirable. So if you're only relying on your personal brand as a coaching business, then or as an agency, some people run agencies only getting traffic from their personal brand. You will never be able to sell that business. Period. You will not be able to sell it because it is 100% reliant on your face. A cold email infrastructure, in this case, is going to decentralize the company's marketing and acquisition and deal flow, okay? And it's going to make the company acquirable, number one. Number two, let's say you don't have just a personal brand marketing channel. Let's say you have one that's like Google ads and Facebook ads. Okay. Now it's already acquirable. What the third pillar in this and the second one for acquirability, what this system is going to do is it's going to make your EBITDA multiple higher, right? So if you don't know how a company is valuated, typically for an agency, whatever your EBITDA is, right, your earnings before interest, dividends, taxes, and amortization, I think I got that right, essentially your net profit before tax, whatever that number is, on an annual basis, you can typically get a 5x multiple on that. Now, I want to be clear. If you have a decentralized marketing channel where you can essentially use alchemy and turn nothing into a customer, and it's predictable, and you can just like literally I saw Sam Altman from OpenAI say this, like their whole concept is right now that they're using a lot of third-party service providers for like their GPU chips and all this kind of stuff. And essentially what his goal is essentially he wants an automated factory where you can input sand on the one side and output new databases, right? So like it's literally alchemy. Okay, and like it's the same thing for cold email. It's a similar type of structure, and the concept is the same. Where it's like you're not paying any service provider, you're not paying Google, you're not putting your money in there, and it's like no, you're literally sending emails and turning it into money. Like it is the least frictional thing you can do in terms of like reliance on other companies. Okay, everything is in-house, everything is managed by the company, by you as the service provider. And so that is very attractive to investors, right? Anyways, I'm giving you the nuanced reasons. I know these reasons like the back of my hand, right? Because I'm good at what I do as a cold email agency, right? Acquirely knows these things. And so the first point is that's why we can close deals. I don't question pricing anymore because I know what fucking value we produce to the marketplace, right? If we are increasing, number one, increasing EBITDA multiples in a company, adding millions of dollars to their valuation. Number two, we're actually increasing their EBITDA amount on an annualized basis as well, right? So we're increasing the multiple by making it decentralized, their company decentralized. So instead of getting 5x, they can now get a 6x multiple on their overall company's EBITDA, okay? And that adds to the EBITDA they currently have. Number two, we're adding EBITDA, okay? And multiply by that new multiple, okay? Number three, is whatever other reason I said earlier, right? Which is like, we're actually adding revenue as well to the company, right? Which is like we're adding cash flow to the business, right? Which is gonna help you invest in other infrastructures down the line, pay other agencies, hire more talent, all that kind of stuff, right? We're actually solving the problem of the business, which is generating more sales. So if we're doing those three things, how does it make any sense for you if you're paying 30 grand for a system that can send 100,000 emails a month? Now, that's not relevant, but for a system that can book an extra 100 appointments per month onto the calendar, okay? And then for you to, we then have upgrade slots. So for every 5 grand you pay, you can get an extra 25,000 emails a month. So an extra 25 calls a month onto your calendars. Dude, if you invest 100 grand, you're going to get like 500 calls a month added to your calendar. Let's say 65% of those attend. Let's say worst case, 60% of them attend. That's 300 appointments extra on your sales calendars. That's enough for 2 full-time sales reps, okay? Sorry, 3 full-time sales reps. 100 calls a month attended per sales rep times 3 is exactly how much this system will produce, okay? So that's what you're getting, let's say for anywhere between 50 to 100 grand. Like, even on a worst case scenario, if that agency has a $10,000 LTV, lifetime value, not upfront revenue, lifetime. Dude, lifetime value for an agency, if you have less than $10,000 LTV as an agency, there is really something wrong with your offer, okay? We have $70,000 LTV, average LTV at Acquirely, 70,000. Okay, and we're still optimizing it. I can still double that. I'm going to make our average LTV 150,000. Why? Because we're making our clients millions of dollars. Why wouldn't they give us 100 grand if we're making them millions? It doesn't make sense, right? And so it makes total sense why our LTV is 70 grand right now, average, because we're making our average client 700 grand, right? And so hopefully that's making sense. So basically, let's say conservative stats, right? We book them 500 extra appointments per month. They get 300 attended on the calendar. On a sales team, now they can hire an extra 3 sales reps, okay? 300 calls are attended. Their sales reps are semi-trained, and it's an average offer. They're closing 15% closing rates, right? So let's say that's 45 deals closed in the month, right? New clients they're onboarding at 10K LTV, terrible LTV, okay, lifetime value for those customers that they should actualize within 3 to 6 months. So now we got 450 grand of revenue added within 6 months to that business, okay? Every single month. That's, what is that? 5.2, I don't know if my math is correct, but let's say, $5.4 million per year in extra revenue. Let's say a third of that is net profit, or let's say a third of that is EBITDA, right? So we got, I don't know, let's say, I'm just doing some quick math here, 5.4 divided by 3, that's $1.8 million in extra EBITDA. That's cash the business keeps. So that's extra cash flow, okay? Then we got times 5, which is how much additional valuation the company has now. If we add 1.8 million in EBITDA to the company per year by adding 500 appointments to the calendar per month, 6,000 appointments per year to the calendar, that's $9 million in new company valuation. New company valuation, okay? Only coming from our system. Why, in your right mind, would you try to save 10 grand? Why in your right mind would you try to save 10 grand? If we're charging you 30K for a setup fee, why the fuck would you try to get it for a third of the price cheaper? It does not make sense in any way. It makes no sense. Because your upside is so ridiculously significantly higher than trying to save you 10 grand. Firstly. Now, sure, let's address the fact that you can go and get someone else who will do it for 3K, right? Literally a tenth of the price that we're charging. Cool. You go there. Do you understand that every single marketing channel is going to break at some point? That's why you get experts, you get average people, and you get like people who can't produce results. Agencies and freelancers, okay? So what happens when that system breaks? You pay that company 3K, the system's going to break. It doesn't matter what marketing channel you use. Any infrastructure in life is going to break. No one stays perfect. You need to maintain that system, and you need to know how to fix it when it inevitably does break. That requires experience, okay? The agencies that's going to do that for 3 to 5K, they're building the infrastructure. I want to be clear. There is no value in an infrastructure unless it produces results continuously. So you need to be having your signal and your North Star focus on your real goal. If you are buying an outbound system like this, your goal is not to make money in the next month. And if it is, you're not our customer. I'm not even going to take you on as a client. Our clients are looking at a minimum of a 12 to 24 month ROI. Meaning, firstly, ask yourself, the agency you're going to charge, you're going to pay 3K for a quick little system. Is that system going to be working in the next 24 months? A minimum the next 12 months? Because if not, then why are you even spending the money in the first place? You're wasting your time and attention. Your attention is better spent on something that's going to last the next 1 to 2 years. Otherwise, it's not adding anything to your business, right? The answer is the company you're paying 3K to, there is a 99% chance that system is not going to be working in the next 12 to 24 months, period. Okay? Because the system is going to break, and the difference between us and them is we know every single thing that can possibly happen in these systems because we've spent tens of thousands of hours dealing with this, okay? Tens of thousands of hours dealing with this. We know every single possible thing that can go wrong. We've solved every possible thing that has ever gone wrong already. We know how to solve it, and that's number one. Number two, more importantly, we know how to prevent it. So ultimately, the little agency you're going to go pay 3K to for a tenth of the price, their goal is not the same as the real goal. Your goals are out of alignment. And right now it's blurry for you. You can't see that. But that's why it's absolutely crucial to see it through the right filter. Identify what it is you want first. Okay, we want to add ARR, annual reoccurring or recurring revenue to the company. And it needs to be predictable. This is what we're trying to achieve. It needs to be predictable and it needs to be yearly. It needs to be long term. It needs to be stable. It needs to be something that we can actually rely on. Again, it makes zero sense to try to save 10 grand on something that is going to be able to produce millions in the business if it works. You have a much lower chance of the system working if you go and deal with a $3,000 system from another agency or even a $5,000 system from another agency. Anyone who's cheap is cheap because they cannot produce results. Period. Because the companies that can produce real results are not cheap. Period. No company that produces real results is cheap. Because the companies that can produce the real results have self-esteem. Because self-esteem comes from results. It is a loop. So by default, any company that is not producing results will not have the self-esteem and will charge a low price. It's that simple. Okay? Hopefully this point runs home. I want this video to just be a banger when it comes to pricing. And again, like I'm just using our company as an example, but apply it for yourself, which is like, be an expert. If you are an expert and you are the best of the best and you have no competition because nobody can solve the problem as good as you can, right? And you can provide more value to any other competition out there, then why would you offer something at a cheap price? It doesn't make sense. Okay? So in this game, specifically in this example, like if you are offering a revenue producing package or service to another company, if you at your company offer a B2B service that helps companies increase their revenue, essentially, then it is always going to be the worst decision for the customer to try to be cheaper. That is an example, that sphere of business, that niche or market or segment or whatever you want to call it, it is never a good idea or a good thing to try to get a cheaper price. Right? Yeah. And I'll say this. Now this is where it really is, this is the powerful part now. Okay? Generally what I'll say to people if they're looking for a cheaper price is like, listen, just do me one favor. Go and find one company who has a testimonial video. Now this is like, obviously compared to my competitors, right? At Acquirely in the cold email space. Go find me one competitor. Go find me the competitor that has a testimonial video and proof of a client of theirs booking at least 1,000 appointments. So go find me a competitor that booked at least 1,000 appointments onto their clients' calendars and at least generated them at least $300,000 in real cash collected. Go find me that proof. And I will recommend you get on a call with that agency. Because so far as I have seen, we're the only agency in the cold email space that has that proof. We have done that. We have booked 1,000 appointments for a single client and have their testimonial video, right? And so ultimately like that, because that's the goal. We're focused on the real goal, which is adding revenue to companies. Like, period. That's the goal, right? And that is absolutely worth paying for. And it is absolutely worth 10% of minimum. I mean, at most 10%, right? Like it is a fair market rate to charge 10%. So if we add $300,000 in real cash collected, we are worth $30,000. We deserve $30,000, right? If you add $1 million to someone's business, you are worth 100 grand. That business owes you 100 grand, technically speaking, right? Because it's real value you're bringing to the business. So yeah, it's the straightest line that makes the most sense, right? And the straightest line in this case, if you're offering a service as a B2B service provider, increasing companies' revenues, it is revenue. That's the straightest line. That's what B2B companies want. They want revenue, right? So yeah, like you got to know your worth. And and again, like your worth comes from your results. So don't sit here, if you haven't gotten results, don't sit here on this video after you've watched this and be like, yeah, I should increase my pricing because Zane says I must increase my pricing. They charge 30K. Like, no. Go book the 1,000 appointments. Go get crazy results. Go get the dream outcome for your ideal prospect first. We have done it. That's why we can charge 30K. Right? And including system upgrades on the back end, we're about to do it like 100 grand average per customer because we're about to increase the back end results for our clients. Moving forward, I don't want to deal with the client unless we're adding $3 million a year to their revenue. That's my new goal. I don't want 700 grand anymore. I want 3 million. I want to add $250,000 a month to our clients' predictable revenue just from our appointments alone. And guess what? Then we deserve like 300 grand a year. We deserve at least 300 grand the first year in fees from that because we're adding 3 fucking million, right? Which is like a lot, okay? It's like $5 million that we're adding in company valuation, real purchasable company value, right? Like that equity will be worth an additional $5 million if they have a 30% or a 33% EBITDA, and we add $3 million in revenue. That's 5 mil of actual purchasable value that owner has gained from us. Hell yeah, we deserve the 300K. Okay? That's how it works. But again, you need to get the value first, right? You need to get the value first. Like, get those results first. We're not going to charge those fees until we've done it. So until I've actually added $5 million in real EBITDA to my company, to my client's company, and added $250,000 a month, we're not going to charge that fee. But once we do it, if we even just do it once, we're going to charge because we've done it and we have real proof and results. And your competition, well, the competition that you're looking, like the other people you're looking at, if you're looking for a cheaper option, they have not fucking done that. They have not gotten those results. And that's why they only charge 3K. So please, look at what you're buying. Focus on the result that you really want. Do you want code? Do you want like email accounts and code set up in your business? Is that your goal? Because that's worth 3K. That's worth $1,000, right? But we don't deliver code. We don't deliver inboxes. We deliver revenue. We deliver appointments on the calendar, which most agencies don't, right? So yeah, hopefully that makes sense, guys. Hopefully that makes sense. So give this thought for yourself in your own business, and yeah, hopefully it helps, and I'll see you in another video.